guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Why you should back calibrate your high precision sight. Uh, well, I guess that's about it. Why you should back dial your high precision sight. Doesn't matter if it's a spot hog like mine or if it's, I don't know, an HHA or some other brand. And these are high precision sights. You just dial in the yardage you need, 1 yard at a time. These sights are normally calibrated between 20 yards and 60 yards. And then if you did the job right, you'll get a sight tape number off your calibration tape, and it's going to be the one that works. And then you recheck the new sight tape, okay, that it tells you need, and make sure it's spot on, perfect, yard for yard for yard for yard, all the way from 20 right on up to as high as you can go without having an arrow collision, okay? And depending on how you set up your set things up for your main setup and your poundage will depend on how that's going to go for you in the end, how close to 100 yards, or if you can even get 100 yards, right? And sometimes it is the bow too that's the problem because of not having enough mounting space. Sometimes you need more space between your shelf area here, or in this case, your rest, and where your sight mounts, okay? And there are bows that do have a much wider span, so those bows are easy to get dialed into 100 yards, and even more so. Anyways, but back dialing or back calibrating below 20 yards is actually a really good idea, and I'm going to explain to you why. Okay, now remember guys, I'm not an expert here, but I do a lot of experimenting with arrows and draw weights, and I draw lengths even, all this stuff, and I'm still working out a lot of things myself. So I was out shooting that bow yesterday, getting the rest of things, making sure everything's dialed in for hunting season for deer, which starts tomorrow. Yes! Oh, 7 months of waiting. I have become... Anyways, so a little bit possessed. Anyway, so I'm at 20 yards standing up. I'm shooting at my target. Dial set, 20 yards. Boom, no problem. And I start grouping my arrows and getting a good group going. And I was doing all right. So I was fine. And I thought, all right, there was a YouTuber that had mentioned on a YouTube short that you should really learn to sit down and shoot too, because when you're sitting in a blind, you are sitting, okay? So if you have a chair appropriately height well enough that you can sit there and easily get out your window of your blind and, you know, aim your bow and fire without any interference, that's the ideal height to seat. Now, in my case, I'm pretty sure I have that capability, but I have this for a chair, which is about 16 inches from this fold here to the ground, okay? So that's only 16 inches. Now, I'm 5'9", and I figured, okay, well, I'm not overly tall, but I'm definitely not a shorty. But that's a little short, and that's fine. It's comfortable, and it only cost me 20 bucks. And it does work for sitting down and shooting out of the blind with, at least the blind I picked. So with that, I thought, all right, let's try this sitting down thing, because the idea behind this is to see, can I still pull 56 pounds sitting down or standing up? Because the guy said, you know, it is harder to pull your bow sitting than when you're standing, because standing you have more use of your back muscles, etc., etc., plus you have your posture, okay, and all that jazz, right? We all know all that. Anyways, but you don't have all that when you're sitting down in your butt, right? You're just sitting down. So I thought, all right, let's give this a go. Yep, I sat down, I pulled my bow, I can draw it without budging. I'm good. I'm solid. A1, perfect. 56 pounds. Here we are. So I fired a shot. I'm still at 20 yards. Keep this in mind. Standing up at 20 yards, I'm in a bullseye area. Now, my actual bullseye is only 1 inch, so I'm not saying I got all bullseyes because I didn't. I got one. But otherwise, I got a nice tight grouping. Either way, dead deer, okay? So I fired, and my arrow went woo, way over my target. Now, my target sits at the very top, well, actually about around the midsection, is about here on me, okay, for the height and everything. But that's fine if I'm standing up and shooting, because I am actually at a little bit of an angle. We all are, right, when we're standing and shooting. But we're more on a horizontal plane, right? So 20 is 20 on the horizontal line. And bullseye. When you sit down, you're going to be pointing higher to get to pointing the exact same spot. So guess what happens? You're going to fly way over your target, okay? Now, we went through this experience once at the 3D archery range when we were shooting some video for you guys, and we're shooting at, I thought it was a goat. It's not. It's a friggin' 2-spiked black buck. Anyways, whatever. So I don't remember the yardage I was shooting from, but it was on a down angle. So I pulled out my rangefinder, which the only one I had at the time was my first AOFAR, which does not calculate angles, okay? So I set it at that yardage, and I fired, and I shot right over the bugger. And it's like, what? So it took me a couple more shots, but I finally got it figured out where I'm supposed to actually put it. So I'd actually readjust my sight for a different yardage in order to actually hit the sucker, right? So it's like, okay, that made a little bit of sense. And that was previous to this experience, like weeks ago. So anyway, I thought, all right, so now I got this new rangefinder here, and this is one that AOFAR themselves sent me to review for them. It's one of their new models. This accounts for degree and angle, and you get a split second to see the degrees, and then it just tells you, you know, what yardage to set it at, and you're golden. So it'll still read the bottom on the horizontal, because it takes the horizontal, it takes where you're actually at and heights and everything else. I don't know how the hell it calculates it. It's a computer, okay? And then it says, okay, you need to do this. So it told me I needed to set my bow to 19 yards. Hence why you need to back calibrate your bow. What I did with mine was I figured out where my yardages were, and I put little dash marks on a sticker. So I put the sticker on, I back calibrated to different yardages that I needed, and voila, away we went. Well, I only wanted 15 and 10. I didn't account for having to go to 19. So where I'm set right now is actually at 19, which is, if you were to go by the spacing of the little yardage dashy marks, that would be, well, the spacing is actually equivalent to about three dash marks, technically. Probably 2.5. Yeah, more like 2.5. Okay, but that gives me 19 yards. I'm still far away from my 15-yard mark, so we're still okay. So I figured out where that spot was, right? And then I can do my grouping. I can sit down, do my grouping. I actually got really good grouping too, by the way. Sitting on my butt shooting off, sitting on that chair. If you don't back dial, you're not going to know where to go. Okay, so you need to back dial to as low a yardage as possible, because you have no idea what kind of angles and yardages are going to be triggered, and you're also going to need a rangefinder that can take care of those angles for you and give you a new yardage marker so that you know where to set your bow at, okay? Otherwise, you're not hitting the broadside of a barn. Now, 1 yard is 3 feet. So if you take the amount of space between my bullseye on my target I was aiming for and the top, that's a little over a foot, and I ended up 3 feet above total. So my total distance above my target was 3 feet. It ended up in my freaking backboard, right? In my backstop, which is about 10 feet behind my targets, okay? So it's like, okay, but as soon as I calibrated that down and found out where 19 yards was, no problem. I'm still, because I was still aiming at the same point, but you're aiming like this when you're sitting down, because you're not 5'9" anymore, or 5'8", or 6'3" anymore. You're much shorter, and because you're now shorter in height, you aim higher. But in this case, you got to aim lower than what your main yardage is that you're actually sitting at. So if you're at 20 and you're standing up, you're probably at 20, no problem, piece of cake. But if you're at 20 and you sit your butt, whether it's on the ground or on a chair like this, or on some kind of another hunting chair, whatever you're going to use for a hunting chair in your blind, if you're going to blind hunt, okay, or ground hunt, you need to know what those differences are ahead of time before you go out and hunt. Otherwise, you're kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this. So you need to practice that. So that's what I did for the afternoon. I practiced that. And it worked out fantastic for me. So quite happy with that. And anyways, and good news is our blind is coming along well with its repairs. If all goes well, hopefully my wife will have it completely finished by tomorrow so that tomorrow night we can put it out and start hunting deer. So that'll be great. Now, that's pretty much about what I want to talk to you guys about in this video. It's really important that you do set up your high precision sight to that 20 and 60 yard calibration. Get your proper sight tape on there. Double check the sight tape number just in case some of that may have been you that screwed up, which in my case it was me. And I finally ended up with sight tape number 10 for my spot hog for me and for my setup and my arrows and my bow and my draw weight, my draw length. So it's going to be different for all of us, okay? But with that being said, we're good on our calibration. Then I back dialed it so that I could go to other yardages. And now I have a 19. I have to mark that 19 with a line so I know exactly where that 19 yards is going to be. So now it's going to go 20, 19, and then from there. And if I have to do any other in-betweens, I'll have to work that out another day. But there's no way I'm shooting a deer usually under 20 yards, okay, or 19 yards in this case. Unless it happens to happen, I ain't going to complain. I'll take a 15-yard shot or a 10-yard shot at a deer. But I'm going to range find that deer before I decide to shoot it. Just got to hope it'll sit there, stand there long enough so I can just go bing. Okay, gently set the dial, Bambi down, or in my case, Bucky down. So there you go. That's what I got for you. Let me know what you can think in the comments below. And if you have a spot hog or some other high precision sight like an HHA or something, you know what? Just back dial. Just back dial with another extra sticker and mark it and then put Scotch tape over it so it definitely stays there on your dial. I found out I had to do that because the sticker itself was not adhesive enough. So I actually used Scotch tape and then I trimmed the edges off later and perfect. So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Comments below. You know the jazz. Stay tuned for more. See ya.